Thanks for tuning into the Pacey Performance Podcast. So this evening, I'm delighted to welcome Paul Gamble. So welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you for coming.
First one ever. First one. Debut.
Yes, love a debut. Getting first. That's the aim. You don't have to be the best, i.e. me. You just have to be first.
Well, to be fair, you did ask me in 2013, and I wasn't sure that this whole kind of worldwide web thing was going to take off. So I was like, I'll just write. But yeah, it turns out it's a thing.
Yeah, podcasts have gone mad.
They really have.
Even since we met in 2017.
Yeah.
At the start, when I used to ask people if you want to come on the podcast, people just didn't have. Do you want me to write an article for you? I don't really know what this thing is. Like, what do you mean? But it's great. It's I looked at some figures of the day for popular football podcasts here in the UK.
Yeah.
More mainstream, like the Times and things. And I did some digging about how much they're charging for sponsorship, and it's scary, which is great because obviously people are seeing such value in it. So.
Absolutely.
Happy days. Anyway, enough about that. More on to you. Anyone doesn't know who you are. You just want to give us background on yourself?
Sure. For those that do, it'll probably be through my kind of writing. I write a lot, and so I've published like 7 books now. But I'm in my 20th year as a coach as well. So I currently am I've gone quite deep and also quite kind of broad. So variously sports scientist, performance director, coach. I coach track and field. I coach a bit of rugby as well, and then I do a bunch in kind of coaching education as well. So I've kind of gone in various kind of different kind of directions, but also take on pretty kind of deep as well. So I don't know if that helps really.
No, it does 100%. Where were you a performance director?
So my role here, prior to stepping back, was actually it was a kind of like a commercial center. It was the idea is they had physio, like medical chiro, massage, sports science, type of therapy, nutrition, strength and conditioning, all under one roof, and they'd have accommodation as well. So I was the director of performance there, and part of the the kind of leadership team as well, and overseeing sports science, rehab and strength and conditioning too. And then prior to that, my last role in New Zealand was like a coaching director role. So coaching coaches and kind of running 3 different sites as well. So
Nice. Was when you started 20 years ago, was it term strength and conditioning coach? You took it from the States?
Good. And that's really good. It was just emerging. I mean, I began as an applied sports scientist, and I was with a pro team, rugby team. And I only discovered the term strength and conditioning in 2001 in my first year when I was doing it. I was doing a PhD, and in the office was the essentials of strength training and conditioning techniques, the first edition. And I was like, it's interesting, and kind of read it, kind of covered. It's awesome. And then got my CS in 2002. But yeah, at that time it was teams had a fitness coach or a fitness trainer, and that was the kind of job title. And at that, at our club, we weren't like really doing strength training in a meaningful way. It was kind of tagged on. I changed that, but it was very much in its kind of infancy in the UK. The UK test, CA wasn't even a thing yet, and but there was some at different teams. There was real kind of the guys that really kind of got it going were like Craig White at like Wasps, and real big influential kind of leaders there. Dave Reddin at England as well, and Callum as well, who's there. So yeah, it was quite it was that kind of change in the 4 seasons that I was there. It became a thing, by the end was a recognized title and a established role by the end anyway. But yes. I think I kind of got in at the right time.
Yes.
Both in terms of like sports science and in terms of strength conditioning. I don't think I would have, if things are as they are like now, I probably wouldn't have chosen that path, because it's just the odds aren't good enough.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we'll come on to that later. I'd be interested because we had there's a couple of tweets back and forth over the weekend.
Sure, yeah.
On the weekend when I don't go on Twitter, I was replying. Yeah, got sucked back into that conversation. But no, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts. So you've got 7 books, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, like technically, like 2 of those like second editions. Well, like one. Ooh, there you go.
There you go.
So like that one's 7. So yeah, I've written 3 in the past like 3 years. So and yeah, 2 of them. So 5 purely textbooks, and then 2 the more around the art of it. The art of applying the science almost, and the things around kind of training and environment, the whole culture thing, like what's actually like mean in real terms, and then just some stuff around how we actually kind of take the kind of textbook version and actually do it with live humans that don't behave as the textbooks tell us they should. So yeah.
How's the writing helped the coaching? Has it helped?
It very, very much goes hand in hand. I mean, I write for me, really. I mean, it's how I learn is it's if I want to explore a certain topic, I will write either a journal article or a chapter, whatever. And it very much helps to just get thinking dialed in on it. It's very much informs what I do, and that was the point. Plus, if I don't like write, then I don't read either. So it's a focus for that. When I do go periods of time like without, then I just find I don't read. So it's a good kind of discipline to do that.
How have you seen the audience grow in terms of your writing?
I'm still kind of at that cult classic.
Okay. Oh really?
Status. It's funny. It certainly is. I don't think it's the books. Well, I don't think the books really kind of reach a very, very kind of wide audience currently. which from a sales point of view obviously isn't ideal, but from it's almost, they are almost kind of geared towards a more kind of distant audience, which because I don't give you the answers. So, and that's what the more kind of mass kind of market, I guess, and I don't really simplify things beyond what you can. You know what I mean? So I think that quote, make everything as simple as you can, but not simpler than it is. You know. So I get very feedback from coaches that have been coaching for 30, 40, 50 years, which is awesome. But I don't know. I'd like to reach more, but maybe this will help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the structure that I probably don't actually maybe tell people how that structure with the podcast. Not that people would care, but why not? This is the time. It's now.
Tell us, Rob. Tell us.
So I like to split it up into 3 areas. I think it seems to fit nice into the time we've got, which is 45 minutes an hour, which is my normal structure. And we've got the athlete, the coach, and the developing athlete. So when it comes to coach, we'll dig back into your thoughts around the industry and helping younger coaches and whatnot. But the first was around the athlete, obviously. Okay. Not obviously, but interestingly, because you're a coach and that's what you're looking after. So, one point that came up in, I think it was this book, or what's the one that with the black cover, the one before? What's that?
Yeah, it's probably Informed.
Informed, yes.
For 2018.
That's the one. And one of the subheadings was the responsibility and accountability, and that stood out. And I'd like you to give us a bit of just an account of where that section came from and how difficult that is to give athletes the responsibility. Like you say in the textbook, it tells me to do this. I'm actually out there. None of that's happening because that person in front of me don't want to do it, or various different reasons why it just doesn't happen. But then to bring that back and actually give them responsibility and the accountability up front. So yeah, take us through that. Maybe your journey as well on that front.
Yeah, I think probably the real theme is the idea of everyone has kind of agency. So that means that you choose, and it is always a choice, and it's a series of choices every day. So you choose to turn up. Good. You choose to how much you invest in like what you're doing, how kind of dialed in you are, how much you give it. I mean, how much you focus in, whatever. That is a choice, and that isn't as like the coach. I can't make that choice. It's theirs, and it will be always theirs. So that's kind of the central theme of it, really. And so making even that idea clear is really key. And I don't think that's something as a younger coach I even thought about. It's like I've done this really good program. I'm going to give it to you. You can do it. Tell it's going to be fine. The problem is if you give the certain program to 2 certain athletes, the one that's actually dialed in and engaged will respond in a very kind of different way to the other, even though they both turned up and they're both going through it, one's going through the motions, like one is actually really kind of dialed in and invested, and that is a massive difference, and that's a thing that you can't really police almost. I mean, you can obviously you can shout at them if that's your thing. However, I was the smallest guy in the room, so that wasn't like really gonna be a great go. So yeah, I think just making that point, and it is then they don't become a kind of a passive, receiver of be it therapy, training, coaching, whatever. They have a responsibility to do these things, and they're accountable to that. So it's up to them. It's their show. If whichever way that this goes, I can only influence it to this point. The rest is up to them. So yeah, I think it's things that you don't really consider until you've got a few more, kind of laps on your belt, I think. But yeah, I think John Kiley's work actually gets into this really well as well. So that was he's an influence in terms of how I think about these more intangible parts of the kind of coaching piece. Yeah.
With responsibility, how have you seen that differ, the need for responsibility, from the athletes in various different sports? And the reason I ask that, and accountability as well, because everyone wants responsibility, but when it comes to accountability, different scenario. Is that different across sports for you?
Very, and even it's different across cultures too. I mean, I've talked to guys in pro sports in the the US, for instance, and they in that in terms of NBA, NHL, NFL, the athletes have so much power that it is literally up to them if they don't do anything. And it's been that way to a point in the UK at times, but not to that scale. I think. And everyone, I mean, there was a quote from the coach of Serena Williams' coach, is a French guy, and he said, "Look, you can't be afraid to lose your job, because if you are, the athlete will sense that, and your kind of credibility, your accountability, or your authority goes out of the window as soon as they sense that." And that is very much a case in pro sport, I think, too. So, but sometimes if you track and field, no one's really getting paid anything. You don't do that for the the big bucks, I don't think. So it is very much, they are much more inclined to be all in, and dialed in, because it's they're there to achieve, and it's much more of a kind of a pure sport. You can't just be the best kind of player on the pitch. I mean, it's if you aren't the fastest, the most kind of powerful, the best prepared, then that's very obvious. I mean, whereas in team sports, you can kind of you get away with that to varying degrees anyway. So that is a factor too.
How do we balance that, what you just said about Serena's coach and not being afraid to lose your job, to that into a team sport scenario
where you are?
Exactly. How can you not be? How can you not be? And especially given the climate currently with what we're going through, not only that, absolutely, which obviously breeds uncertainty, but the fact that the majority, or not the majority, but a lot of people are on lower wages, which probably means they need it more. Less disposable income and all that kind of stuff. But then standing true to what you believe in and doing the right thing for the person on the team in front of you, that just doesn't really add up.
Well, it does, in the sense that the outcome is going to be the same anyway. Okay. It's just the time frames are going to differ. So if you are in that fear of implementation, you're just kind of staying back, things aren't going to go well, because the team isn't going to be syntax and test control, probably anyway. If that is why you've got away with it, fine. Sometimes all kind of roads are gonna lead to the same thing. So do you take your all out and actually say, no, I'm actually gonna, this is what real life is. This is your job. If we are serious about doing the test, then this is what it's going to require. And not being combative, just being frank and honest and candid, really. I think athletes and players respond to challenge as well. So if it isn't if it's done in that spirit, I think the conversation this a lot better than I'm being the disciplinarian. I mean, the bottom line is this will depend on what you do here, and that's just the truth. That isn't so what are we going to do here? And I think I don't think that's a direct you get fired off the back of that. I think if anything, the coaching staff are going to be more inclined to support you, and in pro support, that's huge. If you don't have that, then as soon as things go badly, you're the first guy that gets thrown onto the bus, because if it's you or the coach, it isn't the coach. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a test, and I think it's a test that everyone needs to be prepared for. And if you're there for job security, like wrong job. So that's what it is. And if you are that's just what it is. I mean, I don't know.
In terms of giving athletes the responsibility, there's two things that I wrote down there which came from the book, which were self-therapy and the self-screen, which I thought would be quite nice to tie in here, of ways that responsibility can be handed over in certain ways throughout the training day, the training week, the training month, whatever it may be. Do you want to expand on them two things, the self-therapy and the self-screen? Because I think it was quite a good example of giving responsibility and accountability. But if there's anything else, and if there's a process that you went through to build up to that, or if they were the first port of call and there was things after that, just a bit of an outline of that would be great.
Yeah, so where that came from it, and it wasn't even pollution in the sense of the kind of daily self-screen began as this list of 20 things that took more time than the touching it, and then over time you distilled it down, happily. But I think the main theme is, look, this is your livelihood, your kind of body, and you only get one. Is your a vehicle to go where you want to go in the sport. So given that, you might want to take care of it, right? And so actually taking ownership of the the maintenance as you would with a car or a bike, whatever. But it's you only get one. So that's where it comes from. I got annoyed, which happens from time to time. Just seeing guys and girls come in and just like mindlessly like foam like roll with like no purpose and like no direction. So the idea of the self-clean is a daily kind of diagnostic or a systems a check to see how everything is kind of moving, what needs some attention, and then that informs what they do in terms of self therapy tools. The idea of having some tools and some techniques that they can do is that they are then kind of able to get that timely input that then it gives you a window of kind of better function for the session, right? So you can then create this window to actually do some kind of quality work. The other piece is I don't want them to be reliant on things that might not be there. So therapy input, they're going to be traveling, for instance. They like won't have that. What happens then? So the less we can have them be like dependent, the better. The more like self reliant they are, the more they're able to roll with whatever, like wherever, and go with things like traveling as well, right? So so those are the ideas. I mean, it's certainly not anything that's too unique. I think everyone does it to a point. I think it's just doing it in a more purposeful way, really.
So is that something that's visual for them? So that self-screen is, okay, if this happened, like almost like a flow chart, if I feel this, see this, do this, it equals this, then just follow it? Is that how it goes?
It's more, so if you do the same sequence of movements and the kind of go through certain kind of ranges of motions too. Sometimes like a stability, like body control, like stability, checking almost. You then, given you're kind of doing it every day, you develop a really good feel for what's happening where. What physios would call like body awareness, right? That then type of time they get really kind of good at saying, this needs a kind of attention to release, and then kind of lengthen here, and then they would do some work. So I think that timing and that sequence too, like what takes attention, like what can we do to release, then what can we do to then get some length off and that, and then kind of use actually do some strength work, do some kind of quality train there. So those elements have to be in place for this to kind of work. If you just like release, what you tie up again. If you just release and then get do whatever, get more kind of length, well, but then you tie up again. So that has to be all of this types of to actually affect change over time, which kind of makes sense if you talk it through in some text terms. Since the thing, back to the point around what you kind of learn over time is that you have to explain why behind you know, what you're doing. I was always like, it was obvious to me, as sort of, yeah, it must be obvious to the pundit, right? So, and it very kind of rarely is. And the really easy test is to ask them, why do you think we are doing the test? And very often you just get this kind of blank look, and like, they haven't even considered it. And until they can actually connect those dots, well, they aren't kind of just going to engage with it because they don't know what it's for.
We've all seen the athletes who have got the habits of that person will at 9:30 go and get a massage on his hamstrings just because he's done it and he's always done it. How does that play into, how does this process, this self-screen and self-therapy go through that? Well, this is what I always get because I always feel this. And whether, that's whether they do or don't, that's just what they've done for 10 years. How does that play with that?
It's a bit of a case. Like if they're the kind of crown jewels of your team, then you probably you're probably gonna you're not gonna say, well, no.
Yeah.
So be like kind of more an evolution, but across the the kind of the group, like the bottom line is we can't do that for every player. So if we can't, well, if you want that level of love, well, you have to earn it, and you earn it actually by doing everything you can do. And then if we need additional input on top of that, well, okay, fine, because you've done everything that you could have. And just we've traveled with teams, and that was a rule. When you travel to tournaments, the physio or the therapist typically gets slammed, and they have they kind of work like 20-hour days, and it's just a joke. So my role was, if you want the therapy, you have to have done everything to earn it. And that actually worked pretty well. We actually brought the therapist home, and she wasn't buried. So yeah.
Cool. Like it. Next point.
Yep.
Was the coach. This almost comes back to the start, but that's fine.
Okay.
One point that I wanted to bring up was I think it was the recent blog, or it was the recent blog when I wrote this, which was last weekend,
right?
Which was about being data driven. No, it wasn't. This was a while ago, wasn't it? I was digging back in the archives.
I've done a couple of days. So it was part of a chapter of the prepared book that you've got that came out in April, and I released that as an excerpt in a blog, and then it had like a kind of a ripple, and then in August it just kind of went viral randomly.
Yeah.
And then off the back of that, I've actually just like written a more kind of in-depth commentary on it for science and medicine in football.
Okay.
So that'll come out soon, I think.
Okay.
But like where it all came from is it was a rant, basically.
All the best articles.
Most of them, as you'd have seen.
Yeah,
most of them are.
Absolutely.
It just makes no sense. Like data, aspiring to be data driven as a good thing just is just by his definition is nonsensical. And the idea that just by having letting data make all our decisions we're being scientific is just ridiculous. Like we work with complex adaptive systems with a mind attached. That being data driven would work with a simple system. This isn't that. So why are we doing it? data is great when it informs, like what we do. When it informs our, judgment and decisions, great. But so what I'm trying to champion is let's be data informed, not data driven, because we still need to do the thinking part. Data doesn't do that. These are just numbers. They don't think. And so some of the data too is garbage, and so we need to be able to discriminate what's good and what's bad, if we're going to make decisions on that.
Does that come back to the responsibility piece, that we think we can rely on that, and therefore we're almost like, whoa, it wasn't me, that's what the thing spat out, and it's told me that this is the case. Don't blame me, like blame the grand kit that we've all agreed to buy.
I think there is something there, and I'm always, for instance, and this is a topical one, like the acute to chronic ratio. I'd have ran about that in like 2013 for you.
Yep.
And then Franco really got his teeth in and kind of wrestled it to like death. It's like no one would exactly, like no one was like no one really kind of listened to me, like, oh, pulls down the rant. But then Franco did the real kind of work, and tons of public. But what that shows is that if we do have all this data that we're collecting, because all of the other teams doing it, like if one team gets heart rate, the rest do. If like one team then gets GPS, the rest do. And so on. So I've got these reams and reams of data that you're collecting because everyone else is doing it. And what do we do with this? So if someone then comes up and says this data is really kind of useful and you can like use it in this way, like awesome, and you don't really kind of trouble yourself to actually think about is that really the case? Should I delve a little bit deeper? You're just so stoked that this is actually you can do something with it, and everyone else is doing that too. So well, it must be right. For instance, but I think we are a bit too quick to kind of park our brain at the door when we have these tools. And bottom line is the version in 1.0 is often a random number generator anyway. So I mean, like what it's actually kind of telling us, it's who knows. It's random numbers. So we should probably be a bit like more skeptical, and skepticism should be our starting point, whether it's something that we want to be true or not. But then,
do you think that's you've just answered that question? Do you think that's lacking, and why do you think that skepticism's lacking, especially when it comes to this?
I think we're a credulous bunch, and we think if we're in a big kind of tribe of us is doing it, then we're still taking work. Okay, and so if they're everyone else is doing the test, well, obviously it's the right thing. And it is scary to not be part of the crowd, and it does take kind of much more mental work to actually look under the hood and actually do the the work to actually, double check, validate, is this telling us, what we think? Thinking is this telling us the same thing? If we, test, twice, does it tell us the same thing? If we do the same test with a different unit, does it tell us the same thing? That does take time, and it takes work, and we tend to gravitate to the easy, the choice will play the path least resistance, and we feel secure in doing that because everyone else is doing the test. It must be legit then. I'm a skeptic by kind of nature, and so I'm a bit of an odd kind of one out anyway, so that's fine. And I'm pretty comfortable with that status. That isn't that common, I don't think. Thinking's hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was interesting that you mentioned that article, the acute chronic article, because it was. I mean, it kind of obviously people read it, but then Franco gets hold of it, and it just ramped up and up and up, and people don't want to be associated with it. It's crazy. That whole journey was mental. When you look back on it, the journey was crazy. Yeah, mad.
And I think that should be a real kind of cautionary tale, because everyone in terms of physios, like medical sports and science, strength and conditioning, everyone has adopted this as gospel, and funnily enough, they aren't saying that now, but it just shows that a person is smart, but people can be very easily misled on maths.
Sucked in. Yeah. Sucked in. The next thing on the coach, which is an interesting one, mentoring.
Yeah.
And I've written down here is this is not to sound. I'm being skeptical. That's what I'm being. So you'll appreciate that, Paul.
Yeah.
Is mentoring the 2020 Herbalife? Everyone's on it. Everyone's on it. I feel left out for not been enrolled in a PhD.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I could and probably would run about that as well.
Yeah. So
which I might.
Yeah. Everyone's enrolled in a PhD, and I'm not. So I've been left out, and I'm not either. I don't think I am been mentored, or I'm not mentoring anyone, and
right.
I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but it's everywhere. It's honestly, it's everywhere, and I'd just like your thoughts on it, and if you've been the mentor or the mentee, like.
So
where's your head at? Is it?
I was like never mentored in terms of sports and science and strength and conditioning, right, or any part of the physical and athletic preparation realm. I did get a lot of guidance in terms of my kind of track and field like coaching. I became a coach just randomly, and then so I then kind of sought out very good coaches and learned from them. So I guess that was kind of mentoring. I've done a bunch of mentoring though, and the reason I do that is because I'm self-sufficient. I get something out of that, and I think they get value too. But I think it's kind of a double-edged one. When it's done well, the expertise to actually do like what we do is very much like context making decisions in context, which is tougher to kind of learn out of the book, because obviously it depends on the situation. So having a kind of sounding board to help guide that is that you can see that has use, right? As the kind of mentor, I enjoy those conversations. I find myself coming out with things I'm like, that's quite clever. And then often those conversations end up being stuff that I then get into with my writings, and so it kind of sometimes as inspiration. I think the problem becomes when it ends up being a kind of a guru, kind of apprentice thing, and that always gets a little bit unhealthy, because you then just create kind of clones and followers, which is a real problem. So the trick is to actually, if you're going to take out a mentorship, so take out the right type people, and so take out more than one, and if you can, like, have them come from completely kind of different tangles, and then you can then triangulate your position from that, and come at it from the viewpoint as don't follow everything whole, which is coming back to our previous point is a problem anyway, right? So you don't have to you don't have to agree and adopt everything. You can just take the bits that make sense, and that you should think you can try and if they work, they work. I think where we need to really kind of get to is more of a peer to peer model, which is what you're actually doing, right? I mean, so you're a peer, kind of mentor in a one to kind of many format. So you are actually doing mentoring.
Oh, fantastic!
So there you go. You might even be doing a PhD that you don't even know. Because apparently you can just get those now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I won't get into that because I would offend everyone.
Yeah, that's okay.
So let's just
anyway.
So I think if it's done like with the right expectations, and it's done like with the right spirit, I think it has value. I don't agree with. I actually got since Tom reached out to me to offer for me to pay to be mentored by him, which I didn't respond to. So I think that's a problem when you like solicit. I think that's not okay. I mean,
that's coming.
I know.
It's here. But was that someone from? You don't have to name names. Like, what was that?
I'm happy to name names.
No, stop. Was that someone from our industry, or was that someone outside?
More physio.
Okay.
And for only like whatever the dollar amount, I could buy his book and then pay to be part of his mentoring program. So I didn't respond.
No, the term that I actually prefer, and it sits a little bit better with me, is one that I heard Grant Downey say, and it was a critical friend. I quite like the thought of that. I would happily be a critical friend on either side.
Yeah.
But the mentoring, to me, it conveys something in my mind that I know 99.9% of people offering it, or I think 99.9% of people offering it, that's not what they're getting. And maybe that's just my skewed view of what a mentorship is. I actually think they're probably getting more critical friend. Like bring your contextual problem, let us know, like discuss it, and I'll give you how I would potentially visit that problem. And then you take away of what it is, like you decide whether you want to take that or not, but I'll provide my input. To me, that's not mentorship, but I think that's what a lot of people are giving. And to me, that's more critical friend.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there is a very kind of valuable CPD offering that is kind of content and the interaction place to actually, help them relate it to real life scenarios. I think that's different though. I think I certainly wouldn't want to call that mentoring. I think that's more almost like bespoke CPD almost, if you want to call it that. And almost, and I think there probably is a place for an apprenticeship model too, right? Because this is a craft. But I think the kind of the value in the kind of value exchange needs to be in time, more than actually you pay to play. But I don't know. I don't know. I struggle with it, but some token though, mentees, need to understand that this takes a lot of time, and you have to be kind of willing to give back value to. There are a lot of psychic, kind of vampires out there, which is Dan Path's term. Though until it's great, that just want to come to you. For your kind of knowledge, give nothing in and then go away. I think that's a problem too. So there has to be a kind of agreement at the days and zero that I'm going to give you this like value. You're going to give me time, be it like volunteer coaching hours or whatever it is. I don't know how that works in terms of the internship idea. I think that's probably something different.
Yeah, I think it's just a term. When a term just becomes popular, it just gets thrown around everywhere, and the spectrum just gets bigger and bigger of what that actually means, and it just gets cloudy. I don't think really that helps anyone. Then you get people like the guy that emailed you jumping to what does that even mean? Does anyone know what that means? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. But I do. Just to finish the point. I think there is also value in terms of that kind of peer to peer. In terms of mentoring people in different disciplines too. So, for instance, I've been kind of a mentor to physios, and that's been really that we're not like it isn't kind of guru apprentice. This is an area that I know more. I've got more knowledge and experience, and I'm giving you that, and vice versa. So that's I think that's a good model too.
Last but not least, CPD.
Yeah.
CPD. Pre and post COVID, the ever wanting strength and conditioning coach for CPD. Where are your thoughts at with the clamoring for CPD?
Yeah, I think it's good that there is a desire. If there wasn't, then that is a real problem. I think we don't stop kind of learning. We're always figuring it out, right? So I think in terms of how it's delivered, I think one of the biggest value adds you could give is to help people. You've got these seas of information, and I think as a result of that, of people drown and they end up being kind of less informed than
100%.
they were, and so being able to actually just kind of direct kind of learners to the real kind of quality stuff, because that the volume of kind of quality of information hasn't grown too much, but everything else has. I mean, it's almost like in terms of like parts per million, that count has gone down quite a lot, because you're always, there's always more stuff. So I think being able to direct them to the sources is really helpful. And just to give a plug, the most recent edition of like comprehensive strength and conditioning that came out in 2019 has like close to 1,000 references in it. So that's quite a good kind of leaping off point. Like whatever the topic, you can go into the citation and then do a really kind of deep dive as using that as your anchor or your starting point. I think that has real value. Again, textbooks are good for principles, but then the application kind of part is kind of much more the art of it, which was my 2018 book. Anyway, so I think there is good content out there. I think you just have to be selective and being able to have guidance from those that know helps a great deal, because otherwise you're just lost in this kind of massive ocean of very variable content. And
how do you go about filtering what you spend your time on? I know you're the creator of content.
But my process is, as I said, I read as I write. Okay. So have an end note the thing with I think it's now up to 3,000 papers in it. So I just kind of geek out on kind of topics and actually go really kind of deep on it, but wide as well. More and kind of more I go into different spheres to actually get the kind of the business perspective, get the medical perspective, architecture, whatever it is. Because there are parallels, and there are kind of lessons and principles that they've already figured out. And we're a very kind of young people. We need to recognize that. The extent of what we kind of know isn't good. We don't even know why people get a cramp. So I think we need to just be a bit more humble around that, and actually go to the real hard science or the other professions that have been kind of around for much longer than my 20 years.
Like it.
Yeah.
So coming to an hour, I'm gonna let you go. Okay, I'm gonna let you go. But where can people read your writings? Get more info on the books. Where's the best contact details as well?
Probably so I've got two sites now. So one is more kind of geared to coaches, practitioners, leaders, and it's informedinsport.com. And Twitter is informedinsport. And then I have another one. It's more kind of geared to athletes and parents, and that's Prepared Athlete Training and Health. So preparedathlete.info. So I post on one of or those each like weeks, and so kind of alternate weeks you'll something new on there. And if you obviously follow both, then you'll get weekly. And then you'll find all the the books there as well. So the most recent is called Prepared, and it's came out in, I want to say, April this year. And if anyone would like to write a review, and particularly Chris Toombs for I sent him a book in 2018, and I'm still waiting. I've written 2 books in the time it's taken to write a review. Just saying.
That's shocking. I'm texting.
I'm just gonna call him out on that one.
Well, I've got it here, and I'm making my way through it, so you can guarantee a review from me. I'm balancing it with learning French. And
I know you said, yeah.
So I'm trying to do both, as always, trying to take on too much. But thank you very much for your time, Paul, and I really appreciate you coming on. And
sorry it took us 7 years, but I just I'm a skeptic. I wanted to kind of make sure that this this worldwide web thing was going to could take off.
Gonna kick on, yeah. No, that's I appreciate that. I appreciate the skepticism, but no, thank you for coming on, and appreciate it. We'll chat soon. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, Rob.